What is up, YouTube? Dottz Gaming here, and as it turns out, there was one important topic I forgot to cover in my complete ESO beginner guide, which I guess makes it not as complete as I thought it was, but regardless, that topic is Mundus stones. So I'm going to cover what a Mundus stone is and what Mundus stones as a topic are, what different buffs that they give, and which one you should choose from for your specific build and for your character. So Mundus stones are denoted on the map by the icon shown here, and these stones basically will grant the player a permanent buff or boon, whatever you want to refer it to as, when you use it. So for those of you who played Skyrim, these are basically like standing stones, but in ESO. There are 13 different Mundus stones that you can interact with, so 13 different types of buffs in the game that you can get, but you can only have one Mundus stone buff active at a time. Going to a Mundus stone and using it will give you that permanent buff, but if you go and use a different one, that new stone's buff will replace the old one. The only way to have more than one Mundus stone buff on you at a time is by wearing 5 pieces of the Twiceborn Sar set, which will allow you to have 2 Mundus stone buffs active at the same time. So now let's move into the different Mundus stones that you can actually get. The first one being the Lady, which increases your physical resistance. Now this can be found in either Auridon, Glenumbra, or Stonefalls. The next one is the Lover, which will increase your spell resistance. This can also be found in Auridon, Glenumbra, or Stonefalls. The Lord increases your max health, which can be found in Grahtwood, Stormhaven, or Deshaan. The Mage increases max Magicka, also Grahtwood, Stormhaven, and Deshaan. And then the Tower increases max stamina, once again, Grahtwood, Stormhaven, and Deshaan. The next one is the Atronach, which increases your Magicka recovery, which can be found in either Greenshade, Rivenspire, or Shadowfen. The next one is the Serpent, which increases your stamina recovery, can also be found in Greenshade, Rivenspire, or Shadowfen. And then the Shadow, which increases your critical strike damage, not your critical strike chance, but the critical strike's damage. That can also, once again, be found in Greenshade, Rivenspire, or Shadowfen. The ninth one that we have is the Ritual, which increases your healing effectiveness, and this can be found in either Malabal Tor, the Alakir Desert, or Eastmarch. Then we have the Thief, which increases your critical strike chance, so also, once again, Malabal Tor, Alakir Desert, or Eastmarch. And then the Warrior, which increases your weapon damage, which can be found in either Malabal Tor, Alakir Desert, or Eastmarch. Then we have the Apprentice, which increases your spell damage, and this can be found in either Reaper's March, Bankorai, or the Rift. And then the Steed, which increases your run speed and health recovery, and this can be found in Reaper's March, Bankorai, or the Rift. So now that you know what the 13 Mundus stones are, let's move into talking about which ones are actually even worth using. So for stamina DPS, you are going to want to be using the Thief most of the time. The only time you're really ever going to want to be using the Shadow, which is another one I would also recommend, is maybe in CP PvP or in PvE when you are above 75% crit. Otherwise, Thief is going to be the best stone for you for stamina DPS. You could also, for like, let's say a PvP situation, if you want to build more critical strike and more critical chance and more weapon damage into your build and not so much stam recovery, you could also go with the Serpent. The Serpent is also another viable option, but this is more of a PvP application. Magicka DPS is kind of along the same line of thinking. You're going to want to go the Thief most of the time. Shadow only really in champion point PvP and above 75% crit in PvE. Or again, for a PvE build, if you need to build some extra recovery, or PvP build, excuse me, if you need to build some extra recovery into the build, you would like to go with the Atronach. That would be a good choice. You know, the Atronach is just the Magicka version of the Serpent. So there's basically the same type of thought process for both stamina and Magicka DPS. For a tank, the 2 most common ones I've seen throughout my research, again, I do not play a tank, but I did a little bit of research for this video, obviously, and the 2 that I found are the most common are the Atronach Stone and the Ritual Stone. So I would recommend choosing between one of those 2 for your tank. Having the extra Magicka is always going to be helpful for whether or not you are a stamina tank or a Magicka tank, because a lot of tanking abilities for the classes do run off of Magicka. They're not stamina exclusive, so having that extra bit of Magicka regen will help you. Or if you want to just have your extra healing done be buffed, the ritual is going to be what you want. You know, increase that healing effectiveness. You know, you are a tank after all. You know, you do want to make sure that you can keep yourself healed. Then we have the healer. And we have 3 choices. You have the Thief, the Atronach, or the Ritual. You can pretty much choose whichever one fits your playstyle the most. The Thief will give you a chance for larger heals, so you know, a higher crit chance, so it'll give you the opportunity to have bigger heals. Atronach will keep your Magicka regen a bit higher, so you can make sure that you always have Magicka. And then the Ritual will just straight up increase your healing effectiveness. You can really go with one of those 3. I pretty much think it's build dependent. I have seen all 3 recommended, so I would take a look at your build and see which Mundus stone is really going to complement the gear and stuff that you have best, and then choose from those 3. Again, though, you can really find a use for most of the Mundus stones. Not all of them, for most of them. There are some, you know, build-dependent ones that you could run. Like I've seen some Magicka DPS and PvP builds run the Ritual, but again, that's a very specific niche thing for their builds. And I was trying to speak very generally for this guide, because these recommendations that I made will apply in like 90% of situations. So you can pretty much be safe taking a recommendation from my list here. But that is it for me today, guys. Like I said, I did somehow forget to cover this topic in my complete beginner guide, so I felt it was necessary to cover in its own video. If you liked this and found it helpful, I would appreciate if you hit that like button. And of course, for more content like this and to know when I go live here on YouTube, please subscribe, as well as hit the little bell next to the sub button to always be notified and up to date for when I either post a video or am streaming here on YouTube. Thanks again for watching, guys. I'm Dottz Gaming, and I will see you all next time.